All right, deep divers, buckle up, because today we're diving into a topic that's a little unnerving, to say the least. We're talking government surveillance, and get this, it's happening right now in the digital age. We're not talking about some sci-fi movie here, folks. We've got an article that breaks down how things like AI and facial recognition are being used in ways you might not even imagine. By the end of this deep dive, you'll be totally caught up on the tech, the laws, and how to be a digital ninja in this day and age. Seriously, you won't believe some of this stuff. So the article kicks off by taking us way back to the days after 9/11. Remember the Patriot Act? That was a big deal when it came to government surveillance.
It really did set the stage for a global shift in how we think about security and privacy. And those initial counterterrorism efforts, they actually opened the door for these much broader surveillance programs.
It's like giving an inch and then, bam, they take a mile.
Exactly. I mean, remember Edward Snowden back in 2013? Talk about a wake-up call. His revelations really showed us the sheer volume of data being collected globally on everyday people like you and me. Emails, phone calls, browsing history, you name it.
So we're talking about going from tracking potential terrorists to basically having the ability to monitor everyone's online activity.
It's a slippery slope for sure, and one that we need to be very aware of as citizens.
It's kind of terrifying when you think about it. And the tech involved just adds another layer to it. I mean, AI, facial recognition, it all sounds so futuristic, but it's happening right now.
Oh, it's not science fiction anymore. London, for example, they've already implemented live facial recognition for their police force. That means they're analyzing people's faces in real time as they walk down the street.
Wait, hold on. Real-time facial recognition. What about mistakes? What if the system gets it wrong?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And it's a huge concern. These systems aren't perfect. There's a real risk of misidentification, which could have serious consequences for innocent people. Imagine being flagged as a suspect just because the algorithm made a mistake.
It's not just about privacy anymore. It's about potential discrimination based on how these systems interpret facial features, which is super worrying.
Exactly. And it goes beyond law enforcement, too. Think about employers, landlords, even businesses using this tech to screen people or target them with ads. It's a whole new world of potential profiling.
Wow, okay. So we've got governments stepping up their surveillance game with AI and facial recognition. And the potential for errors is a big red flag. But this isn't just a government issue, is it? I mean, let's be real. Companies like Google and Facebook are practically swimming in our data.
Absolutely. Big tech is a huge part of this equation. They've basically become the keepers of our digital lives, whether we like it or not. We're constantly handing over personal information just by using their platforms.
It's true. Think about it. Every day we're revealing our location, who we talk to, what we're interested in, all online. That's a goldmine of data. And let's be honest, we don't always know how it's being used.
And it's not just about targeted ads, right? Governments can actually request access to that data. And sometimes those requests, they happen behind closed doors without much transparency at all.
So even if you trust your government, and let's face it, not everyone does these days, there's still a chance that your info could end up somewhere you never intended. Kind of like.
It's like leaving your diary open in a public library, right? You might trust the librarians, but who knows who else might be peeking in when you're not looking.
Exactly. And it's not just about people snooping around either. Data breaches, they're happening all the time. The more data that's out there, the bigger the target we become.
Absolutely. It's a real concern.
Okay, so we've painted a pretty bleak picture here. It feels like we're stuck in this web of surveillance, and there's no escape. But there are people fighting back, right? This article mentions some legal challenges, privacy groups, that kind of thing. Give me some hope here.
Oh, there's always hope. There are actually some amazing organizations out there like Big Brother Watch. They're doing some really important work, challenging these surveillance programs in court, pushing for stronger privacy laws. They're the good guys.
Okay, so that's good to know that there are people out there fighting the good fight, but legal battles, they can take a long time, right? What else can we do to tackle this issue, on a bigger scale?
Well, awareness is key. The more people understand these technologies, how they work, the potential risks, the more likely we are to see real change happen.
So knowledge is power, as they say.
Exactly. It's about empowering individuals to become informed citizens and demand better from our leaders and these tech giants.
I like it. But it can't just be on individuals, right? we need governments to step up and create some better rules, some stronger regulations.
Absolutely. We need clear laws that protect people's privacy in this digital age. Laws that clearly define what's acceptable and what's not when it comes to surveillance.
Finding that balance between security and freedom, that's the tricky part.
It is a delicate balance, for sure, but it's a conversation we need to be having as a society.
It is. It is. And while those conversations are happening, while the lawyers are doing their thing, what can everyday people like our listeners do to protect themselves? Besides, throwing away their phones and living off the grid.
Huh. Well, it doesn't have to be that extreme. There are actually some simple things everyone can do. Be mindful of what you share online. Think about using privacy-focused browsers, messaging apps. Little things like that can make a difference.
I like those. Those are good. Okay, so we've talked about governments, we talked about tech companies, but
Right.
there's this other thing this article mentions. It's called CBDCs, Central Bank Digital Currencies. I've heard the term, but I'm a little fuzzy on the details.
Sure, sure. Imagine a world without cash. Everything, and I mean everything, is digital. Every purchase, even your morning coffee, runs through a system controlled by a central bank. That's essentially what a CBDC is, a digital version of a country's currency.
So instead of dollars or euros, you'd have these like digital tokens issued by the government.
Exactly.
And I'm sensing there might be some downsides to this whole thing.
Well, proponents argue that CBDCs could help combat things like money laundering and make transactions more efficient.
Sounds good so far.
But the potential impact on privacy is a major concern. I mean, we're talking about a whole new level of financial transparency.
Because every single transaction could be tracked.
Every single one. Imagine a world where the government knows every purchase you make, every bill you pay, every penny you send to a friend.
Okay, that's a little too big brother for my liking. And we've already talked about the potential for errors with things like facial recognition. Imagine that same technology applied to your finances. It's a slippery slope for sure.
It really is like a
Right.
whole new world of financial activity. And, there are definitely some potential positives, at least that's what people are saying. Like, it could help with things like money laundering and make the whole financial system, run more smoothly. But
Yeah.
that privacy thing, that's a biggie. It's a real game changer, potentially.
Yeah, it feels like we're at this crossroads. On one hand, we've got these amazing technologies that could do so much good. But then there's that other side, the potential for like total surveillance. It's a tough one.
It really is. And the choices we make now, they're going to shape the future. The kind of digital world our kids and grandkids inherit.
Totally. So what's the one thing, the big takeaway you hope our listeners will remember from all of this?
You're not powerless. Don't let all this talk of surveillance and algorithms freak you out. You have a voice. The future isn't set in stone. By understanding how this stuff works, by asking those tough questions, we can actually shape the future of tech. We can make it work for us, not the other way around.
I love that. Knowledge is power, baby. Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground today. Government surveillance, AI, facial recognition, big tech, even those CBDCs. It's a lot. Hopefully you guys found it useful, maybe even a little eye-opening. And now for one final thought before we wrap things up. We talked about how our digital footprint can be used to track our movements, our purchases, our conversations. But what about our emotions? Could our feelings become just another data point for someone to collect and analyze?
It's a question more and more experts are asking. We're already seeing emotion detection technology being used in marketing, even law enforcement. But whether it's accurate, whether it's ethical, that's a whole other debate.
It's a little creepy when you really think about it. As we move further into this digital world, we've got to be careful. We need to protect our privacy, our data, our right to feel our feelings without someone watching and analyzing every move. Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and remember, stay curious, stay informed, and we'll catch you next time.